Right. So we are the Smart City community, and we are happy to talk today about healthy buildings and workplaces. This is a live recorded conversation. We are not only on Clubhouse, but we are also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you are interested in participating in the conversation, I will be putting the Clubhouse link in the chat. And please join us if you would like to partake. This is something near and dear to my heart. I am always excited to talk about what does healthy um, building look like and what do healthy workplaces look like. I just so happen to be uh, well, someone who's been in this space for a little while. I guess I can share a little bit about me. I'm Brittanie Campbell-Turner. I'm the CEO and founder of Constructor. That's Construct Double R. And I've been in the industry on the owner's rep side for umpteen years at this point. And I studied architectural engineering, which focuses on the integration of building design, and then stumbled into owner's representation in the construction space. So um, that integration of design always allowed me to understand about how to gain efficiencies when it comes to energy and just resource utilization. But I've always been, and I told this story last week, I've always been really attuned to how things affect my health because I have asthma and, just breathing is something that lots of asthmatics really are challenged with when they enter into physical spaces, depending upon the temperature, the humidity, could be so many things. So it drove me to really look at that, also productivity as it relates to workplaces as well. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about uh, the the um, the room today. Marcus, I will give you a chance to introduce yourself, and Felipe as well, and then maybe we'll kick off the conversation with your question, Marcus.
Hi, my name is Marcus Turner. I am interested in shared risk, shared reward contracting models within construction. Um, but related to this topic, I, for most of my life, I grew up in I would say, a fitness environment where I was a kid that was going back and forth from being able to compete in multiple different sports, up to four sports, uh, four different sports in a year. One of the things that's very interesting for me and learning about these topics as far as healthy building and healthy workplaces is rest and recovery. I found later on was very important, and to be able to have create situations or create environments where breathing. I'm also an asthmatic, so breathing to me was very, very important, especially as a kid struggling with asthma and having asthma attacks all the time. And just learning more about healthy workplaces, healthy buildings, and then learning how it's actually contributing to the environment um, has grown for me recently over the past few years.
Felipe?
Beautiful. Thank you, Brittany. And my name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez. You can see that is my legal name in my profile. And I'll show my driver's license to you when we meet in person if we need to. It's not my last name, it's part of my middle name. It's a long story, not for this room if you have time. And I work for a large general contractor, McCarthy Building Companies, by day. And by night, I am the host of the EBFC show, the Easier, Better for Construction podcast, where I bring on people from all over planet Earth that are working like the people in this room to make construction better today than it was yesterday.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Back to you, Marcus, with your question.
Oh, well, my question is related to Corley, so I just want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself again as far as developing what she's done as far as the project of at her home.
So just you want to give a summary of the house that we built? Is that what you're?
Correct.
Okay, so this was
Just
back
for
in.
the context.
Yeah, so just this was back in 2008. We built a home, and because my husband is quite, he's very interested in innovative ideas and technology, and the company that we had was mechanical. We incorporated things like geo and solar and gray water recovery, and we did spray foam insulation. We did a lot of things that made it a healthy home, a full HRV system. Um, we were very mindful of making it a sustainable, green, healthy home was sort of what we ended up building. That answer the question or give a summary enough?
Yeah, yeah. I was to follow up on that. As far as your energy uses on your home, are you in a situation where are you energy neutral as far as energy consumption in your home?
Not quite. We like, are you talking like net zero kind of thing? Is that what you refer to?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, not quite. We're in Canada, so we are geothermal. We did radiant heat. Was our geothermal was radiant heat, and although our energy consumption is quite low, it wasn't. It's not net zero. We actually sold that house a couple years ago, but it wasn't net zero.
Okay. Um, for the rainwater usage, were you using that with like within the toilets and other areas like amenities such as that as well? Or
So yeah, we had our showers and sinks recycled to the toilets. We had rainwater collection, and we had it roughed in for also um, distribution. But we actually never ended up hooking that part up. But we did have the sinks, showers, baths directed to toilets.
I wonder what so that probably reduced the bill a lot more. And I'm assuming the new home that you're in now, is it similar or you seeing your utility bill skyrocket?
No, we actually don't. Where we lived, we didn't actually pay for water separately. It was included with our municipal taxes, so it actually wasn't. It was a definitely a reduction in our consumption, but that was more of a personal choice as opposed to a financial decision to make. So there was no additional or reduced cost for that. Our hydro was reduced. Our electricity use was definitely reduced because we did have a very tight envelope, and we could practically heat our house with a candle, and it would stay. Heated for a period of time. So we didn't use a lot of electricity for our heating. Um, and as far as what was the other part of the question that you had there?
Uh, I think as far as relation, I think your job is being able to answer that. And I'm assuming you are in Canada, correct? So your winters are a lot more severe than I would say where I am in Wisconsin. So you being able to save energy during the winter months were probably highly important.
Yes, definitely. We're in a heating area as opposed to cooling, but we did actually have radiant cooling as well because it was part of the system that we put in. So it was with the geo, we dumped the heat in the summer, and then we dumped the cooling into the field in the winter. So it helped to maintain the life of the geosystem.
Is there any lessons learned or like practices of things that you wish you would have done better to improve like the actual build of this?
That's a good question. We were pretty happy with what we brought together because it was back in 2008 that we built it. And your other part of the question was no, we moved into the city and now we just rent and we rent an older house. So we look forward to building again in the future and being able to incorporate even more sustainable and healthy. I would love to build a net zero home. That's probably our goal when we do it next. Um, but for what we did at the time, it was pretty innovative. And I mean, when they were drilling the geo, because it was deep wells, there were 300-foot wells that they had to do. their machine blew up. That, I don't know that we could have done anything to prevent. We're doing geothermal in an effort to reduce, our footprint and all that stuff. However, this rig that was drilling ended up exploding in our front yard and dumped oil everywhere. So it didn't feel great about that. But otherwise, I think, the build itself went really well and we incorporated everything that we wanted to. So I think we were pretty fortunate, I think. But we also did a lot of planning and a lot of research, and it was both of our backgrounds. So I think there was a lot of things that contributed to a successful build and how we did it and the decisions that we made along the way. There was a lot of, between the two of us, our technical background really helped to make the right decisions for us.
I have a follow-up question, Coralie. If you don't mind, would you be able to share approximate budget for the build itself?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my husband is a plumber by trade, so we were our radiant was much. It would have been a $40,000 install had we been doing it for somebody else, but we were doing it for ourselves, so it was a lot lower. But our build, I think, and this was also back in 2008, and it's in Canada, so it's all kind of relative. But for us, it was about, I think it turned out to be $223 a square foot was what we ended up building. Not that I kept the exact numbers or anything. It's kind of my personality. I'm a numbers person. So I had this like running budget that was like, I don't know, it must have been 100 line budget that I had created for line item budget that I created for the build. So everything was broken down. So it was able to be quite specific, by the end.
I would not expect anything less based upon the introduction that you gave. Thank you so much, Coralie. Any other questions for Coralie? Thank you so much for being a good sport and letting us kind of drill you. Um, just wanted to give a shout out. Coralie, she's consulting, helping women in construction, coaching them on how to navigate through business. It's just, man, I'm just so proud to have another woman in the industry, just able to support other women, uplift, empower other women. So just wanted to give you a shout out, and the fact that you have done that, and are also passionate about healthy spaces, so much so that you and your husband invested into your home that way. That's just really incredible.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
You truly ate your own dog food. I am really impressed by practicing what you were standing behind. So, have you done any more builds like outside of just for your own, for yourself, um, um, in addition to um, like for sustainability, for sustainable homes?
When we had our business, we were involved with passive homes, building mechanical systems for passive homes, as well as net zero homes. So it was definitely something that we were involved with when we had our business. My husband now does design and consultation for mechanical systems for residential mechanical systems. So it is still what he loves, and he still is quite involved with that whole thing. Is on the design side, not so much the install. He says, he loves to do the design. He'll let somebody else do the work.
I totally understand that. Luis, welcome again. We're gonna hold your last comment that you said yesterday to another for the conversation for Lean Construction Roundtable. But welcome. How are you today?
Yes, I'm doing well. Driving across states, so if you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll park. But yes, my name is Luis. I am a licensed general contractor in the state of Georgia. I mainly do government and state uh, contracts, construction contracts. I focus on projects, from 25K to 1.5. um, around that realm. Um, and just the comment and topic in reference to this title that I wanted to share and probably get your input, um, is the matter which I sometimes tend to be a science geek, from my earlier years. Um, the new technology of being able to convert carbon dioxide into carbon fiber.
Hmm.
Um, Supposedly, it's some new technology, or just new studies that have been done by using algae. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but turning carbon dioxide into carbon fiber, and I think that's a very interesting thing to do. I was in this group that was talking about building a city in Mars, and the chemistry in Mars is there's so much CO2 and not enough oxygen. And when you think about building materials that you will need in Mars to be able to create a city, um, being able to utilize the abundance of chemistry to create building materials is the way to go, I think. But it will also be useful in our planet to um, do those type of studies. And as I said before, from my past life, I was a contracting specialist for the Army, and I was an auditor for the Department of Defense, and I did a lot of audits on companies such as Georgia Tech, which they get massive amounts of funding to do basic research and applied research. Um, and yeah, I've been considering the idea of writing up a grant for something that's called a CIBR. CIBR is Small Business Innovation Grant. um, in order to start these studies on building materials that can be that can be converted from waste in our planet into building materials. So that's a topic that I just wanted to see your insight on it. And my name is Luis, and I'm done speaking.
Louise, I hadn't heard about that technology before, but I did do a quick search here on Google. There's a product here, carbon nanotubes, carbon fiber, C2CNT. Looks like the name of the product itself. Um, there's a startup at George Washington University developing a process for converting carbon dioxide into carbon fibers, just like you mentioned, or nanotubes using molten electrolysis. Okay. So the process, which uses CO2 and electricity, produces carbon nanofibers, which can be used as carbon composites, a strong, lighter weight alternative to metal. Very cool. Okay, so to make this also like makes this, yeah, has the opportunity to make anything that really needs to have that durability of metal. So cars, blades, airplanes, bicycles. Okay, really, really cool. Had anybody else heard of that technology? Cool.
Oh, actually, I have not. I just researched the algae thing though, which I was just starting to learn about. So thank you for adding more things for me to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, there's a few other things as well. Another few building materials that I've been interested. I do prior to being getting my license as a general contractor, I focused a lot on decorative concrete and resurfacing concrete, and with the thought that it's less expensive, it is more eco-friendly to take an old slab and resurface it to add color to it, to add design to it. and not create the waste of ripping out the concrete slab and redoing it again. So that is something that I still do, and I even have um, my own white label on those products. Especially now with a lot of renovation projects that are coming through on different army posts and bases that they have the need of resurfacing concrete, is a service that I tend to offer uh, in a lot of occasions. And then another building material that I'm pretty interested as well, and I'm looking forward for the development, is the mixture of either concrete with plastic, especially recycled plastic, or asphalt with recycled plastic. And when you do that in the proper way as well, it actually makes it more durable than regular asphalt or concrete. So those are other areas of interest that I've been looking into.
Like, is this beneficial for roadways as well or no? Louis? Luis?
Say again.
Is it
What was
beneficial for roadways? Is it beneficial for roadways as well?
Yes, is beneficial because when you mix the concrete with plastic, or the asphalt with plastic in a certain way, it actually makes it more flexible. So by making it more flexible, it helps with the cracking, which is a big problem with concrete. Um, and also, like, if you mix, if instead of rebar you were to use carbon fiber, which the carbon fiber, as we spoke earlier, if you're taking it out of converting CO2 into carbon fiber, and you use that instead of rebar, yeah, I think it will be a viable solution to for our future roadways. But yeah, that's something of a lot of interest to me right now.
Yeah, that's a great call out, Luis. I know that the organization I'm employed at, they actually there was a contractor that we were working with that recommended a metal fiber solution for concrete, and there was quite a lot of research done um, inside controlled environments for metal fiber, not necessarily carbon fiber. But one thing that I found, particularly with concrete, that our facilities team was really interested in is the longevity of essentially how long it lasts before it starts to crack, and we know concrete cracks. So we actually decided to move away from the fiber solution until there was a lot more evidence and real world applications to make sure that there was not any risk to having cracking concrete more than what we would typically expect in front of our main entrance, which is where we were doing a refacing of the concrete entrance. But I do think it's a really cool technology. Any of the fiber solutions that can combine with the cement mix. I think that is going to ultimately be easier to replace versus concrete that has a rebar um, structure that is going to swell if it rusts anywhere where there's water penetrating the concrete itself. So, if you're having carbon, you're going to have less likelihood for that rust swelling, if you will, and less likelihood for the cracking as well. So, really, really interesting things to investigate here too. Um, I Yeah, lots to think about there. Thanks for bringing those materials to light here.
Yes, I just the last thing is that yeah, I tend to use the fibers a lot when doing stamp concrete. I've done a few projects with stamp concrete, and yeah, it's a lot easier, less expensive, and I've had to I've had to rip it out afterwards because like in one occasion I was pouring concrete slab in Puerto Rico, and um, I had a rain that I wasn't expecting, and this mixture we had put carbon fibers in it, and the final finish didn't come out like like the agency wanted to. So at the end of the day, we had to rip it out and do it again. And to rip that thing out, it was like super difficult because it was like 35,000 psi mixed with synthetic fiber, structural fiber, and that thing was like super tough, and it wasn't even a week. So thankfully, it was just a small section. But yeah, so I've experienced it firsthand.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. We do want to welcome Nineveh to the room. Nineveh is our resident data storyteller. Did I get that right, Nineveh? You can introduce yourself.
Thanks, Brittany. Literally just got off of like 10 client calls, and I'm like, I'm so ready for this awesome Clubhouse conversation. Yes. Felipe was on the call earlier. He would refer to me as the data whisperer. So I kind of like that. I'm going to stick to it. But no, I have a certification in data science. Work with Brittanie, which is a Fortune 50 consulting firm. So they're former Arthur Andersen, the founders of the company. And for anyone who hasn't heard of them, but I've worked with majority of the Fortune 100 companies and top 5 banks, and have a vast history in providing an umbrella of data solutions, ranging on a very huge spectrum. But I do work with a lot of dashboards and visual storytelling, and work with bridging the gap between business and IT, and typically it's more of multiple roles. So really good to be here, and always love learning more about just construction or prop tech. I don't know, Brittany, what's the best label for it? I feel like it's always a new experience.
Yeah, it's the entire ecosystem of the built environment and how it
Yeah.
affects people. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, these conversations have been so helpful because even me being in the world of data, I mean, I see how much it touches into construction and how major it is. And I think it's just always really rewarding. So yeah, thanks for having me. And thanks for hosting.
Thanks, Nineveh. Yeah, always welcome here, and an awesome contributor asking provocative questions, getting us to think through things from a kind of off the beaten path perspective of what we're typically traditionally thinking through things. So, always appreciate your contributions.
Thanks, Brittany. And I feel like, just with what Lewis was just talking about now with nanotechnologies, I'm kind of on the same boat as Marcus. I've kind of gone on the rabbit hole. I'm just doing a whole bunch of Google searches. So thanks, Lewis, for kind of lightening that that spark.
Sweet. Anthony. Oh,
Hold up, I got Anthony. Anthony had a great image up right now. This is a image of a coal worker at work.
So the image is basically portraying a dog representing a human at a table having a cup of coffee, surrounded by fire, smoke filling the room, and just saying, everything's fine. This is status quo.
I'm just loving it, Anthony. I can't even imagine where you would get that from. I feel like I search for memes and pictures all the time, and that's a really good one.
I cute.
It's
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
oh,
Anthony.
I was just gonna say, for all my peers and friends and colleagues in cybersecurity, this is how a lot of them feel. Putting out fires under budget and are expected to be lifesavers. But with that
With
being said,
no, I was actually just like literally staring at the photo as you're talking, and I'm like, yeah, that's me with the coffee all day, and then I see that black cloud hovering over his head. No, it's just really great, yeah.
so back on topic here. Sorry to distract the room and the topic. We go about life and we go about work with blinders on a lot of times because we're so used to a routine of doing things a certain way in a certain environment that we really don't even pay attention to some of the things that may be problematic. If I ask anyone in here, do you know how clean and pure the air is that you breathe in your dwelling or at work in an office building or in a manufacturing plant? No, but most of us go about that business of going to work or working from home without knowing. Um, and some of us have family members or even ourselves or friends that suffer ailments that can be exacerbated by bad air quality. So, that being said, there's a lot of data around us that we don't pay attention to, and sometimes is being collected, but isn't being portrayed on a dashboard, on a display or monitor. Um, so look around, find data that is important to you or important to your company, and see what meaningful data you could find, and then extract that actionable data that you could then take action upon it. So that's my little teaser to start off. My name's Anthony. I'll stop there.
I love the teaser, Anthony. I I think I'm so appreciative because we have Coralie in the room who I really has um taught us how how possible it is to incorporate as many design components into a building space with health in mind, understanding um, how to create a building envelope that reduces the amount of heat transfer and improves indoor air quality as well. Um, or I should say, it reduces the amount of heat transfer in your core and shell by doing a number of things. But yeah, I think it's the whole concept of passive homes is fantastic. I think Anthony, though, you're bringing up a really great point about like tracking after the build, and ensuring that like your existing space is performing either the way it was designed to or getting a benchmark of where you are today to figure out what's next in order to make improvements. So yeah, love the point and where you're going with it.
And also to add on to that, one of the things is, with a lot of the houses that we did build, where they put these fancy systems in, but didn't understand what they were actually trying to achieve. There's no point in having, something incorporated into your build if you're not going to use it. For example, an HRV or something, where it's supposed to be on continuous and cycles, depending on the time of day and the house use and all that stuff, and then they just turn it off or they don't open their windows, or whatever, whatever it is that you're using to, um, be able to create that healthy environment. If you're not using it, then there's really no point. So I think that it really goes to a point of explaining to people who are, whether it be your office building, whatever, to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, how it's intended to perform, and then actually using it that way. I don't know how many houses we had to go back into. They didn't use their bathroom fans, and then they'd be wondering why they, are getting moisture in their rooms or whatever. And it's just, they need to be used. If you're going to be installing them, you need to be able to use them properly.
Yeah, it's about understanding how to operate your facility in order for you to get the most out of it. 100% agree. Um, yeah, it's like creating a new template, but without giving somebody instructions on how to populate the template. I don't know. It's a really simple thing to provide people with, but it's things that we're challenged with every single day. As I think about like our meeting rooms as an example, and this is not specific to healthy, it's more hybrid focused. Now that we're in this mode of flex work in many locations, um, setting up a room in order for it to be functional for that remote and in office experience, people need directions. People need a cheat sheet. They need something in order to help them understand how to connect the room correctly in order for them to do any displays, to see the people on the call, whether it be Teams or Zoom, like really simple things, but can be complex for individuals who just haven't done it before or haven't done it in a while. And so the more and more you kind of can build in those features where not only the instructions are there, or maybe there's some incentive to or some gamification, if you will, for people to do the right things when they're entering into facilities. There's an example of a hotel. I cannot remember the name of it, but I think a lot of hotels are doing this now, um, that are really interested in being eco-friendly. They will require that. Well, yeah, they give you a key card. You walk into the room when you check in and everything. You walk into the room and you have to slide the key card into a slot on the wall in order for all of the power to turn on inside the room. And when you exit, you take your key and everything shuts off. So you're not powering things inadvertently while you've left the room. That to me is brilliant. Why would you need to have anything powered unless maybe you're charging a device or something? But that's one way that I think is brilliant that some hotels have sorted out how to keep energy utilization down. Um, yeah, I those gamification features are really interesting to me. Technically, that's not gamification, but it's an incentive for you to be mindful. And that same hotel that I stayed at was dog friendly, and they had a bunch of instructions on how to navigate through the hotel with your dog. What areas were not dog friendly? Most places were, but it was just really interesting on like the kind of perks that they provided. I didn't have a pet at the time. I don't have a pet now, so it wasn't something that I was specifically looking for, but I was super interested in how they recommended just reduction in use of water, as well as energy in that space. That's it. That's all I got. All right.
Uh, I think one thing that was actually brought up, I think that would be helpful is the lack of education about how to, from a homeowner's perspective, or what's the purpose of from the concept of, hey, turning on your fan, Corlelia, that you just mentioned about they don't even understand the purpose of why a fan is important in a bathroom to reduce the moisture spreading anywhere. So in my head right now, I'm thinking about the average homeowner. If they don't understand the purposes of that simple item, what else are they missing as far as even in their work facilities that they're just not paying attention to? Unless you're in facilities management or workplace or in the both environment. What are some of these things that we just kind of take for granted? I mean, Anthony, you talk about this all the time with like IoT uses and IoT use cases and troubleshooting with certain IoT devices. What are those things that we use as that we have as amenities that we are just missing the importance of being able to properly maintain? Um, I I remember being in a different room where they were just talking about simply just here's a good reason why you should turn your light switch off. And they like some people were like, oh, well, I love like having a TV on or a light on in my house or whatever, but you're wasting energy. And here are the reasons why this is not effective for you to be doing. So, um, I I don't know how you can re-educate people about like facility uses, especially just within the home. So they'll at least be a little bit more aware when they actually go to work, so they wouldn't leave certain things on or try to forget or be forgetful about those things. That's just my comments about the observations that we've had over the past few weeks and this past conversation.
Yeah, lots of people don't know that the chemicals that are in your water that you use to shower with that when I learned to design a plumbing system in college, I was told that the water um typically you cannot confirm or deny that the chemicals that have been put in there cannot cause carcinogenic effects once they are airborne in a steamy area, and that is part of the reason why you need to run your fan. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I was told that when I was in design school. So that to me just like raises a red flag that like there's a possibility that that's true, and most people have no idea that it's probably better that not only for the steam to escape from your space, but also the chemicals that are in your water to clean your water to nice and pretty and clean. Visually, those things can be harmful to your body once ingested. So, yeah, I food for thought there out there.
Well, as a previous owner of a plumbing company, I had never heard that. So that's very interesting. And it's something I'm going to have to think about. That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Like I said, I can't confirm or deny. I would hope my teacher was telling me, my professor was telling me something that was legitimate, but I didn't go and do the research, so I'm not going to claim 100% that that is true in any way, shape, or form. So, um, yeah, Adesh, welcome to the room. We are just talking passively about passive homes and healthy buildings and workplaces, and how we might consider understanding the data around what is healthy, what is not healthy. I kicked off the conversation probably about 45 minutes ago, um, really just sharing that some of my desire to understand more about what is healthy in a building space is based upon my own just physical autoimmune disease, being asthmatic, and just really caused me to figure out how space could impact physical health, and then also that much more. I thought about, well, how can your physical space not only just um, go the negative direction, where it could cause physical ailments, but in addition to that, how can it improve your health? How can it cause you to even be more productive? So that put me down a path, and that that caused me to not only investigate that while I was in design school, to design a net zero building that was not that was not 250 or was it $225 per square foot? It was probably about double of that. Um, but at the same time, it got me thinking about integrated systems, and then obviously, all the standards that are out there now to encourage uh, better design, more valuable, smart design that allows for better living for humans. That's what I've gotten into over the years. So that's a little bit of a reset. Like I said, we've been chatting all over the place, talking about materials, passive homes, data. Um, I'd love for us to, I don't know, really dig into the question about data. I really like what Anthony proposed around tracking what do we know about our space. I think I shared last week that I've done all sorts of tests in my own home. I have a home that was built in the '60s, and I wasn't feeling well much of the year last year, and people couldn't tell me exactly why I wasn't feeling well. And so I said, well, it could be my house, and just started doing air tests, water tests. Started researching um, the the water that is being distributed to my home. Really just trying to get a better understanding of like what situation am I actually in. Um, and fortunately, not I'm not and nothing's out of compliance. Everything is status quo. But I am personally just more sensitive to things. Like there are many people that are more sensitive to things, whether it be air quality or water. Um, I just tend to react a little bit more severely than people typically do. So that being said, I am vastly interested in understanding the data as well. Um, it's something that when I'm making recommendations to my facilities partners within the organization where I'm employed, I'm always asking what's the value that we're trying to get when we install a bipolar ionization um, system into our air handling units. Like what are we actually trying to achieve, and how is that actually improving the air quality? How do we know that that is being as beneficial as we intend for it to be? Always asking those questions and challenging our teams to make good decisions. Anthony, if you could share a little bit more about the data you've been able to collect over the years and sort of maybe the pitfalls people fall into, that you've seen or you've been able to help people get out of.
There's so many. It's
Pick the worst
it's only
one.
so. Let's start with the start of the pandemic, and everything started shutting down. So after everything started shutting down, and it was a lot of unknowns. After a couple months, people started coming to me and asking, "What can we do to safely open up our buildings and understand how the environment is inside the buildings and who is where inside the buildings?" So sometimes people, even before talking to me, I'm one person, and there's a lot of experts out there on smart buildings and smart healthy buildings and all the building standards and certifications that building owners can attain or aim for. But like most people, what they did was maybe do a Google search on what can kill COVID 19. So I talked to a lot of building owners who bought solutions for HVAC, and it might have been just a UVC light that was put in their HVAC system. And they said, well, now it's going to be clean. This thing kills COVID. But they had no way to prove it. They had no way to prove if that light was even on. They had no way to prove that it was actually even killing COVID, because they didn't have any sensors that could do that, and they believed the marketing. And so there was a lot of snake oil out in the marketplace, and companies that were coming out with solutions weren't even being set to any standard to showcase proof before marketing what they did. A small handful got in trouble and got fined, but most of them got away providing solutions that had no efficacy towards eradicating the coronavirus. So, that being said, whatever you do implement in your home or in your building, having the ability to collect data or have sensors that collect that data to verify where you were, what was the benchmark and the baseline, and then where are you after said solution was integrated. This is very important so that you understand if it's working or not, and if you're going to attain an ROI on your investment on this said technology. So, when implementing things, I've seen companies, large billion-dollar companies, come in and sell to their customers solutions as far as improving indoor air quality, and some of it was like we've heard of the bipolar needlepoint ionization or UVC lighting, and they'll do this. And I was in one of these buildings while it was being integrated, and I went up to one of the vents in one of the rooms and took off the vent and dragged my finger along the ductwork, and I could have almost used my whole hand to pick up all the soot and dust in the ductwork. So what is that solution really doing if we're not even cleaning the ductwork that is air is traveling through and blowing into the rooms anyhow? So sometimes you have to stand back and look at the overall system or the overall building and see everything as a whole. If you make an improvement or make an adjustment here, how does that really impact the process or the room or the building as a whole? And then I think people can start to understand that some of these solutions aren't going to make that much of an impact and you might not get your ROI. But what can you do to help you get to where you want to be? Sometimes it might be a couple steps or a couple solutions that you might need to implement to attain the indoor air quality that you're really looking for, or to attain the energy efficiency gain to lower your electric bill or your natural gas bill. So, those are just a couple things I wanted to highlight. My name is Anthony, and I'll stop there.
Anthony, if I may just say something, in reference to the solutions being provided without proper data, I think the same thing kind of happens with even with this current COVID vaccine. Typically to get one of these vaccines to market, it takes a heck a lot of time for it to get approved by the FDA, the CDC. But because of the whole situation, a lot of these approving policies and procedures were waived in order to get something to market. And I've got the vaccine. I got twice of it. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. But I think like same with this vaccine, same with some of these new technologies that are being brought into creating healthy buildings and workspace. Time is the most um, is the one that provides a proof. The most. Time typically is the one that speaks the truth. So if we use these new technologies and allow time, to then collect the data. I think that's the best way forward. I think we're studying the same thing. Thank you, and I'm done speaking.
Luis, I would agree with you that time is beneficial for more effective solutions. And everything was changing. Everything was so rapid because none of us were alive the last time there was a pandemic here in the world, actually, not just the U.S., everywhere. And you know you have to try to use common sense, and even sometimes common sense can help you bridge the gap between looking at a new solution and does it pass the eye test and the sniff test? Does it make sense to 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 think that it'll actually do what it says it does? Um, and sometimes that is all you really need to see some of the solutions that were on the market and selling to people, giving them a false sense of hope and security that their building or their room was safe and clean now because they had a magical UVC light deployed. And I'm just using UVC as one example. And it actually, the UVC light does, uh, to the point, it does eradicate the COVID 19 and coronaviruses. Now, by eradicate, I mean it will stop the cell from growing and reproducing. So basically, it nullifies it and becomes basically like a dead cell. Um, doesn't like totally wipe it away and make it disappear, but it stops it from growing and stops it from reproducing. And that's effectively eradicating it. But it is all based on light intensity, and the light as light propagates, it only kills what it actually hits. It can't pass through anything, just like light doesn't go through a solid wall. Visible light, I'm talking about. So UVC light is not visible to the human eye, but it does provide a benefit when talking about bacteria, germs, and coronaviruses. But it's all has to be engineered and designed for integration of where it's being implemented. Because even if in a device or a light fixture that had UVC light in it was past testing and was proven effective, if you put that light 40 feet up in the air on a high ceiling in a ballroom, it is not going to have the same efficacy as if it was in a room that had a 15-foot ceiling. So you have to understand all the physics and engineering behind the technology so that when you deploy these solutions, that they're actually to the best of their ability designed for efficacy for what they're originally designed to do. So that was a long-winded answer um, about technologies as far as indoor air quality and trying to provide a safe, clean atmosphere for people to breathe. My name is Anthony, and I'll stop there.
All right, Marcus.
All right. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for participating. I'm gonna kind of wrap up the room, but as we wrap up the room, I will start in normal fashion, doing plus deltas. So, one thing I loved about the room, Brittany, is that um, we actually had a lot of different um, perspectives for me realized throughout the conversation of just hearing some of the common themes and other from other industries or other places or other experiences that gave me the conclusion of what I mentioned earlier, which was basic basic uses of the home and understanding the purposes of that. A delta, I would say, is as far as for what we can improve on, is I would just say probably the show format a little bit, but I really can't think of anything that would be a little bit more entertaining. Maybe Brittany, you need to use your air horn a little bit more. That'd be awesome. So, but other than that, I am done. There we go. There we go.
Marcus, if I may talk about a particular subject before wrapping up the room, some other technology that I'm interested in getting everybody's input about it, if that's okay.
Go for it, Luis.
I'm driving, so let me. Um, the Earlier on, Marcus, you talked about the importance of turning off the lights in a building. Because it uses energy, and the source of the energy is by burning fossil fuels. And fossil fuels is a technology that's we've been using it. I don't know the exact year or whatever, but it's a technology. It's an old technology that we have come up with some new solutions, but nothing really innovative. Um, and in part of my research of what I believe is going to be the future, and there's been a lot of pushback on this a little bit because it's unknown. But helium 3 is one of the most abundant chemicals in the universe. Um, and there was talks about that there was a study done in 1986 from the Institute of Fusion Technology, is a university of Wisconsin, that the lunar solar called there's the lunar soil, the soil in the moon contains 1 million tons of helium 3, which is a material that could be used as fuel to produce energy by nuclear fusion. So nuclear fusion is a little bit of a little bit controversial, but I do believe that if we looked into space of this helium 3 and use it as a substitute of carbon, I mean of fossil fuels, it will do miracles for the world, because the byproduct of burning helium, it's just a chemical of H2O. Basically, when it burns, it just creates water. Um, when you have the burning of it. So that's just a topic of when we're talking about future materials and institutions of fossil fuels. Yeah, helium 3 is something it's very interesting to me. My name is Luis, and I'm done speaking.
Coming from a person who worked at a nuclear power plant, does this create radioactive material, radioactive waste? I'm assuming.
What was the question?
I used to work at a nuclear power plant, so you were talking about nuclear fusion or fission, fusion, I think. But you were saying, is that part of the process of being able to burn the helium? Is that part of the process, and does it create a radioactive material afterwards?
Let me see right here. The nuclear fusion of light atoms, such as this, helium, um, it doesn't really say the article that I'm looking at. It says that it's less pollutant than the fusion of heavy atoms such as uranium. So it's is less polluting than uranium. Sorry if I can't pronounce that, completely, but that's the question. That's the answer I got
Okay.
for now.
That's what the article mentioned. So what I'm assuming that that article is trying to say is it creates less radioactive material or radioactive waste from this whole process. And but part of this actually has to do with nuclear power plants and what they are doing with the material right now and storing or maintenance or even R&D to on that material itself. There's really not much progress in that space, at least from the government standpoint. And I can say that from another negative, my experience at working on a plant, even transportation of that waste, even though it was agreed to, being able to ship nuclear waste materials, um, they can't do right now. And so, literally, what they're doing is making parking lots pretty much and just storing basically radioactive materials, which is very unfortunate. And I hope that there's something that can be done about this in the future. But um, nuclear power is definitely a very green source. And there's a lot of other things that I feel about it. But one thing I would love to do is bring a friend of mine who actually works with a government agency in nuclear power and talks about a lot of the innovations that are going along the way. But that's a topic for another day. Um, but those are some of the things that I know that they're just running up against public perception and um, pretty much particular party stances because transporting material, you go through state lines and public perception looks a certain way. And if you are part of a particular political party, you will not. And having a stance for nuclear power is not necessarily looked upon as good either, which is unfortunate.
So if I can close with my delta today is that I have to get active on being more passive in construction. And also, I learned that I think Marcus is in the market for some new wireless earbuds, but that might be a topic for another day. And indoor air quality, it's not stopping, it's gaining more momentum. And I just think more and more people are going to be looking for these solutions as we progress through the summer into the fall. My name's Anthony. I'm done.
Agreed on the earbuds. He has some, but he doesn't use them, Anthony. Oh man.
If you only knew.
Okay, you can probably hear him in the background laughing on my microphone. Nineveh, last thoughts from you?
Um, Anthony, do you have any dad jokes?
Oh, yes. I'll save that for the room after this.
All right, fine. Yeah, no, it was really wonderful being here today. And I was actually just searching helium-3 and just going off of Lewis's note there. I was actually just thinking about it potentially being a trigger to a new like space race. But yeah, great to be here, everyone.
Sweet. And with that, thank you so much for joining the Smart City community today. We talked healthy buildings and workplace, and we're going to be back at it again on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Central. Join us then. Thank you, everyone.